Remember this? Or this? All the people in the clips you've just seen have now been convicted and sentenced to time in prison. But what exactly were their crimes? And is there even room for them in our prisons? The riots that followed the fatal stabbing of 3 young girls in Southport have now seen hundreds of people charged by the Crown Prosecution Service and several of them convicted. The youngest to be convicted so far is just 12 years old, the oldest 69. Most of the convictions have been for violent disorder. With the help of a barrister, we'll explain exactly what that means, what has led to some of these convictions, including people who have been jailed for social media posts. And we'll ask, where will the rioters go when we see weekly headlines that our prisons are already full?
Judges have been told to delay the sentencing of criminals.
Our prisons are full.
Prisons in England and Wales are full. There have been dozens of riots across England and Northern Ireland. There's now been over 1,000 arrests and over 400 people have been charged. So let's have a closer look at some of the people charged. Firstly, Cole Stewart, aged 18, in Darlington.
St Augustine's Way in Gladstone Street was a male with a body warmer, grey body warmer, blue head overall, blue shorts, white socks, black trainers. He is a suspect who we're looking to arrest. Can you get a hold of him on camera?
Well, he was charged, I believe, with and pleaded guilty to violent disorder. And what violent disorder effectively is that 3 or more people use or threaten unlawful violence in such a way that it would cause somebody else at the scene to fear for their own personal safety. So you can see him at the time, and he's the main instigator in that particular clip. But in the wider incident, there must be 3 or more people. And the use or the threat of unlawful violence, well, he's clearly used unlawful violence by throwing those objects. A charging decision within the Crown Prosecution Service, and I should say that I have nothing to do with the charging decision in any of these particular cases, so I can't really second guess. But in relation to violent disorder, it's clear that those elements are made out in the footage.
Why is this violent disorder and not rioting? Because we often talk about riots, don't we?
In violent disorder, obviously you need 3 or more people involved in it. For riot, you need 12 or more people involved. Then you have the complicating factor that for riot, you have that extra element of a common purpose, almost a common understanding, which you don't have as an element that needs to be proven for violent disorder.
Let's move on then to Hull, John Honey, aged 25. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of burglary, violent disorder, criminal damage and racially aggravated damage to a BMW, as we can see here.
They're attacking that car. There were individuals within that car of a different ethnic group, so the criminal damage is made out. In order for the racially aggravated aspect, it either has to be motivated towards hostility to an ethnic group, or ethnic or racial group.
Let's take a look then at Stacey Vint, 34 years old, in Middlesbrough.
Get on!
It wasn't just this incident with the bin. Stacey was also charged with possession of a Class B substance.
She's effectively, it appears to me, attacking the police with that flaming wheelie bin. She was trying to push it right into the police, but just beforehand, unfortunately for her, fell on the floor and slid along the floor.
Let's turn to social media. Tyler K, 26. He pleaded guilty to publishing material intending to stir up racial hatred. This is Tyler K's post. Why is that a crime?
So he is specifically saying there that in relation to people of another nationality, ethnicity or citizenship, that effectively, that while they're in hotels, they should be set on fire, and then even acknowledges there that may well be racist.
Tyler K has also shared this post about a particular target? Why was that considered criminal?
This appears to be advertising a particular time and place for people to turn up to commit criminality.
Is it easier for police and investigators to find the evidence and the culprits of online crimes as opposed to those rioting with their faces covered and so on?
Well, it would depend, because on a number of social platforms people have anonymous accounts and pseudonyms, and that can make it extremely difficult if somebody's not identifying who these people are.
So, we now know what these rioters have been sentenced for and why. But is there room for them in a prison system that's already stretched to the limit? The government has announced that 500 prison places will be opened in the next month to alleviate the prison capacity crisis. In addition, last year, the former Conservative government launched a scheme to release some prisoners early to battle overcrowding in jails. One of the new Labour government's first actions was to expand the scheme so some prisoners could be released after serving 40% of their sentence. So, will some of these rioters, now being jailed, be included in the early release scheme? Well, it depends on the type and the seriousness of the crime committed. People sentenced to less than 4 years could be part of the scheme, which could include some of the rioters.
I think those who would characterise this as a one-in, one-out strategy, I think that's wrong. What we have is a more systematic approach to freeing up capacity in the prison system. It's quite an extensive scheme and was done as an emergency measure earlier this summer, before the riots, in response to basically the prisons filling up. Offenders who have committed violence against women and very serious cases that result in long prison sentence won't be eligible for early release. So we're talking about the more minor offenders.
The courts are also under enormous pressure here, aren't they? Are the courts having to free up space to deal with these new cases?
The pressure on the courts is extreme at the moment. We have been seeing growing backlogs in both the magistrates' courts, nearly 380,000 in the backlog, and in the Crown courts, and there's nearly 70,000 cases in the backlog. The criminal justice system has been mobilised to effectively carry out swift justice in the past. It certainly happened in the aftermath of the 2011 riots. What's different in 2024 is that the criminal justice system, the courts and the prisons have less capacity and they have less flexibility. But in terms of the question, does it deter? Well, I think it does. I think that we've seen a marked reduction in public disorder from the beginnings of this crisis.
So here's what we know. The arrests keep growing, and some are already in jail for offences committed on the streets and online. In the short term, it seems to have deterred more disorder. But here's what we don't know. Could there be more serious arrests to come? Will some of the high-profile online figures accused of stoking tensions find themselves in trouble? And how lasting will the deterrence effect of swift justice be? Or have these riots exposed a level of racism and violence in some of our communities that isn't going away?